welcome. I'm Nicole Edmond, artist and art educator. So today's lesson is we're going to work on creating a color wheel. So you may have recently purchased a palette. You've worked with creating, if you watched in our previous lesson, we created a test swatch chart so we understand what our colors look like. And now we need to start understanding, how do our colors mix? What happens when we put two of them together? What happens when we put three of them together? So we're going to go through this exercise of creating our own color wheel. And the main reason to do this is, as you can see when we did our swatch chart, there are some gaps that happen here inside of the different colored cakes that we have. So you may notice that there's not really a true orange, there's not really a violet, and how are we going to make them? So let's get started working on creating our own color wheel. So to get started, we're going to take our roll of tape, and I like to use a roll of tape because it has two sides. It has the outside and the inside. It makes lining up two different size circles really easy. So here we go. The next step is to divide it up into 6 equal parts. So we're going to take our ruler and we're going to mark it across this way, and then we need to make two 60-degree marks, and really what that looks like is an X that goes through the center of our circle. So I'm just kind of guessing here about where 60 degrees might be and marking about where the center of the circle might be, and then making that first X going one direction and then making the X going the opposite direction. And our segments are not going to be equal, and that is okay. Now we're going to first add our primary colors. Our primary colors are the 3 main colors that cannot be mixed from any other pigments. We have red, yellow, and blue. So over here onto our color wheel, we're going to identify where we're going to place our red, and then we're going to skip a space, and then we're going to place our yellow, and then we're going to skip a space, and then we're going to place our blue. So now in our palette, we are going to identify what we are going to consider our red, which one are we going to consider our yellow, and which one is our blue. Let's get painting. To begin painting, you're going to add water into your yellow cake, and in order to get yellow to be very intense, you're going to have to add a lot of the pigment there. Then working into your blue, you're going to notice that you don't need to work into the blue cake quite as much. Then with the red that we have here in this palette, I noticed that it's more of like a kind of a reddish orange. So I'm going to add a little bit of the magenta that is next to it there in the palette, just to darken it up a little bit and make it a little bit more of a true like fire engine red. Now it's time to move on to our secondary colors. Our secondary colors are made up of mixing 2 different primary colors. So we mix our red and our yellow, we'll get orange, yellow and blue, we get green, and our red and blue, we're going to get violet. To get started, let's do our mix between our yellow and our blue, and that's going to be our green. Our palette does have a green, so let's just go ahead and use the green that's right there in the palette. I'm going to mix it a little bit with one of the darker greens that's there, just to make it feel a little bit more true, as if the blue and that yellow were made to mix that. Now when it comes to the red and the blue, mixing into a violet or a purple, we don't have that in our palette. So we're going to start out first by getting a little bit of our blue, and then I've noticed in order to get a really nice purple, that you end up using the little bit pinker red is going to give you a nicer color. If you use the more orangey red, it's going to be more of like a brownish purple. And there is our violet. So the next thing that we're going to do is work on our orange. So the red that is in our palette is quite orange, and all we need to do to make it turn orange is just add a little bit more yellow. We should get a really nice, beautiful, bright orange. So adding that on. And the last thing that you may want to add into your color wheel is adding in the tertiary colors. Now, tertiary color is made up of 1 primary with 1 secondary. To begin mixing the tertiary colors, I usually start with a little bit of water right on my brush, because we do have those 2 colors right there on the paper already, or you can mix them there on your palette. So here I am going to add a little bit of water and pigment right in between our red and our orange, creating a red-orange. The way that tertiary colors are named, it is the name of the primary color first, and then the secondary color second. Lastly, we're going to practice mixing our complementary colors. And a complementary color is a color that is opposite on the color wheel. So our red is opposite green, our violet is opposite yellow, and our orange is opposite blue. So when you mix two complements together, you're going to get a really nice neutral. So if you ever want to make something look a little bit darker, best bet is before you add black, especially when you're working with watercolors, is to try and add the complement to it. So here we added the red and green. We're getting a really nice dark kind of greenish gray. Here it is adding purple and violet. We get a little bit more of a warm gray here. And then adding blue and orange together, you're going to notice you get a little bit more of a greenish gray. So this is mixing complementary colors to get neutral values. I hope you enjoyed creating your own color wheel and learning a little bit about color theory, as today we reviewed what is a primary color, how do you create secondary colors, and what are tertiary colors. Then we delved a little bit deeper and we talked about complements and what happens when you mix two complementary colors together in order to get a nice neutral value. So look forward to seeing you in our next lessons as we begin painting with watercolors.